Just go watch the latest Spy Family episode if you really want to know what happens when you attempt to have 100 girlfriends without a powerful, all-seeing god making soulmate magic work out, because while it's true, Rentaro definitely has moments of like, damn, that's a really sweet maneuver, staying up night after night, basically putting a full-ass book into a text-to-speech software in order for her to have a more human way to communicate. That is very well and sweet, but you have to admit, the way he introduces the third girlfriend to the other two girlfriends, if it wasn't for soulmate magic, this boy would be tossed off that rooftop. Look at our girl's face. This is just with 3 girlfriends. If he gets to 100, she's gonna implode, man. I mean, I know they say if they're all not together, they'll die, but at the same time, I have to wonder if, she might be sent into cardiac arrest, because goddamn. I think I enjoy the show the most when it relies on the absolute ridiculousness of the premise in general, because you can't deny the show is ridiculous with its premise, and it really is at times the Gintama of harem anime, but I think you can't deny the fact that this was the most emotional episode of the show to date, and whatever your taste for these types of shows are, this will either be your favorite or least favorite of the episodes. But what I will give it is I like that they're clearly doing something different with each edition, rather than just going, okay, like with Hakari, I mean, she's the most down bad of the 3, and that's probably why I enjoy her the most, because no matter what he does, she's just ready to drop panties, and honestly, it's a very entertaining character for that reason alone. But when you consider the fact that we pretty much right now have a super perverted, can do no wrong, ready to drop trousers at any possible moment, going to beat you senseless whether she's trying to kiss you or she's pissed off with you, and super timid, shy, doesn't know how to open up, and probably is for the best because there's nothing in that book that can answer the bullshit that this kid's experiencing. But that's the 100 girlfriends for you. Full live reaction episode 3 over on my Patreon if you would like to see that. It's over there if you're interested. So, like I said, this was definitely the most serious and emotional of the 3 episodes. I think when you start the show off with 2 girls pretty much immediately competing for the love and attention, it was going to be interesting how they would respond when someone would be brought in, because it's understandable. And even without soulmate magic, it's possible that they reach that conclusion that this is okay, the love triangle can exist. But what's interesting is when you consider the fact that nothing in their mind makes them think that he's gonna go actively search for new girlfriends, right? Like, even when they see him up late at night and tired, their natural response is, okay, we gotta kiss him so he's not, moving on or anything like that. And I think while it was very basic and simple, the 2 reactions they gave to the third one being brought in, and this poor girl, like, she had no idea what she was expecting. She thought he had a girlfriend. Turns out he had 2 girlfriends, and he confesses his love, and she's like, oh yes, it's gonna just be the 2 of us, the princess and her knight, and she gets dragged up to the rooftop. I can't wait for 50 girlfriends, man. That rooftop is going to be packed full, and I don't know how they're all gonna react, because he does have the shield. He basically has a magical shield that keeps the soulmate link so strong that no matter what he does, he probably will survive even if it does send him into a full body cast. But it is going to be very fun to see the different personalities that they'll bring in, and even if certain personalities aren't exactly my cup of tea, or I'm like, this character design looks like she's 10, at the very least, they do keep it fluffy enough that it becomes wholesome, or just absolutely slapstick comedy. And I wasn't really sure where they're going to go, because really, at this point, I mean, once the spark happens, that's the next character, 100%. Unless they go the route of like multiple sparks happen in the same episode and then maybe he has to like compete for all their attention, that could be an interesting plot line. But I think what they did with the more emotional side of someone who basically has social anxiety, she can't talk out loud, and her favorite book series is, she hasn't memorized. Like at points, like she's not even like looking through the book to find phrases. She just opens and points. Like she doesn't even need to look anymore. She has it that memorized. And by getting him basically attached to these books and, wanting to give him the next volume, days go by. Of course, he has a girlfriend. He doesn't care. Turns out he's trying to make her a lot more happy. And he doesn't even know like the darkness of this social anxiety. She was getting bullied in the bathroom. Looks like her mom was slapping her senseless just because she had a inability to open up to people in a normal way that society would view it as. And the idea of basically, because apparently there is no ebook of this series. So that would have made life a lot easier. He probably could have done it all that night. So instead, he had to write up the entire book, which would take a bit. And then ultimately, with the text-to-speech software, now she can actually feel like she's a human. Now, granted, you could make the argument there's a simpler way to do this. There's literally just text-to-speech. You could type whatever you want and it would happen. But I think by hitting her in the feels in that way, it definitely was the Cube Zero approach. So even though technically Rentaro maybe goes around the block in a more complicated way than he needs to. Look at the kiss on the rooftop, man. They should have just all tried to kiss each other right off the bat. That's what I was saying, but you know, he tries and tries and tries. But at the end of the day, it was a very sweet moment, and obviously she was, you know, an immediate reaction was I love you, thinking nothing could happen. And then boy was her world rocked when she got dragged up to that rooftop. I can't wait to see even 4 or 5 or even 10. It's just, you know, Hikari's gonna be like, just continue to be like, damn, this just shows your love for me. Even with all these girls, you still remember your first. And I'm like, either he's getting stabbed or worshipped. Like, there's no in between anymore. I mean, this guy messed up when he was watching his shows, man, because holy shit, man, this is gonna be absolute chaos. It is the most ridiculous harem I think I've ever seen and probably ever will see. At least for a good decade, probably. But man, if this doesn't get a season 2, that will be one of the biggest crimes I've seen in anime in some time, because this is so over the top and it knows that, and just the way they can simultaneously blend like a magical presence to like an interesting cast developing, and just you constantly saying there ain't no way, but then still you're saying there is a way. Yeah, this show's, I mean, if you follow the 3-episode rule, I think it definitely passes that test. I mean, at this point, like, what is that bench gonna look like? You know, like when he's like all sleepy and stuff, like the two of them are sitting next to him. At some point, like I have to imagine she'll probably be the lap girlfriend because she's like small enough. And then there's just not enough room. Like at some point, teachers are gonna come up to that rooftop and say, what in tarnation is going on? Because honestly, man, just look at, I think it's the opening or the end. No, I think it's the opening where he gets all fat because all the girlfriends are like feeding him food and stuff. The boy's getting too stuffed, but you know what? He was dealt a crazy fate-like hand, and while they definitely set the stage of can you break fate, given the book and everything, I think he's addicted to the thrill at this point, but that's the 100 girlfriends for you. I do appreciate though that even if we didn't get to necessarily hear her talk too much this episode, I like the fact that when we're in the almost fairy tale kind of like storybook design and, you know, the knight in shining armor, we got to hear her a little bit. And then once the audiobook started playing, I thought that was a nice touch as well. But I kind of like the idea of a more timid and quiet character who probably won't say anything around all this chaos, because honestly, that's probably the best self-insert for the viewers, just not saying anything and being shooketh. Love to know what everyone thought, because now we have 3 girlfriends. This is the most interesting addition just for the sake of her not being a part of the initial hook, so they also had quite the shock when a new one was brought in. So let me know what you thought down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more videos to the channel. And like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon if you're interested. And hey, while you're there, you also get a video shout out like Diarch Lord, Jonas Pierre, and Stephen Thomas are getting today. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.